There are moments in people's lives that can change them forever. For Elizabeth Marte, the most life-changing moment by far was when she got the news she thought she'd never hear.
They said, well, your HIV results came back positive. And I felt like my belly just dropped.
At age 42, Elizabeth has been HIV positive for 11 years.
I used to really think that only men that were homosexuals got infected. I didn't know that women could get infected at that time, back in the early 90s.
Back then, Elizabeth had been trying to clean up her act after a life lived on the edge. Sexually abused by a neighbor as a child.
We were very poor in the Dominican Republic, so he would often offer me a plate of food in exchange to let him fondle me.
Kicked out by her parents in New York at 17, Elizabeth wound up living with drug dealers, eventually becoming addicted to crack.
It was glamorous at that time, yeah, for a 17-year-old, a lot of money, a lot of, good clubs and a lot, just luxury. And then what happened was I ended up getting hooked on cocaine. Little did I know that years later I would be having sex for a hit of crack on the streets. And I was getting maybe $3-4 for sex, just in order to get a hit of crack.
She had 3 children by 3 different men. Settled in with a new boyfriend, Elizabeth's doctor gave her an HIV test. It came back positive. Elizabeth says her boyfriend never admitted he was infected.
I was very resentful. I used to fantasize just getting a gun and shooting him. Yeah, he knew he had it. He died of AIDS, like less than a year later after I met him, after he infected me.
Bitter and devastated, Elizabeth fell into a deep depression, spiraling further into drug and alcohol abuse. After a sympathetic doctor took her into his home, Elizabeth struggled to become sober and deal with her HIV. It's been a long road back and a bumpy one. Elizabeth suffered relapses in her recovery and dangerous lapses in judgment.
When I relapsed on drugs and on crack cocaine, I was having unprotected sex for a long time, for a lot of times. Even after I was diagnosed with the HIV virus during my relapse, crack relapse. So I prostituted again after I found out I was HIV positive. I slept with many men. I don't know. Hundreds of guys. It's not that you intentionally want to infect people, but when you're under the influence, all you're thinking is about how to get the next hit. All you're thinking is about doing whatever you can do in order so that you can get some crack cocaine and smoke it.
But now Elizabeth has turned her life around. Clean and sober, with 1 child already grown, she's focusing on making a happy, healthy home for her 2 younger kids, including the daughter she gave birth to while still abusing drugs and alcohol.
She was 2 pounds, 10 ounces at birth. I was on the streets during my whole pregnancy, smoking crack, drinking alcohol, and prostituting and sleeping in different places and still hitchhiking to different cities.
This is Elizabeth's daughter now, 14 years old, healthy and beautiful, and worried about her mom.
Just like her sleeping or something, just dying in her sleep, and then me not be able to be there, like I might be over at my friend's house or something.
Like most teenagers, she and her mom have many disagreements.
Like if I'm trying to help her, why is she not taking that advice? Because she knows I'm right, she just doesn't want to listen.
Unlike most, their biggest arguments are about Elizabeth's decision to stop taking her HIV medication.
She hasn't told the doctor. She doesn't even tell her sponsor. Because she knows her sponsor will be like, you better take it. And then she doesn't want to take it. Yeah, I told her. I don't know if she don't want to listen to me. Guess I'm not important.
You know what it is? That my hair has been falling out.
So what? It's better to be alive than your hair being falling out.
I know, but my hair is falling out.
So?
So I'm concerned about,
Your looks.
Well,
Most likely.
yeah, what's wrong with being concerned about my looks? I mean, I don't want to be bald-headed a year from now.
A year? What about if a year doesn't pass?
You mean if I don't make it to a year
Yeah.
because I'm not taking my meds? I'll make it. I'll be all right. It's just temporarily.
Temporary.
I just don't want, this is just for a little while. So.
A little while?
Yeah,
a little while
just
could make...
for a few months. And then
A few months?
In this close-knit family, there are few secrets. Hazel and her 12-year-old brother have known the facts about HIV for years, even though they didn't always understand them.
It's like, oh, I have some disease called HIV, and you can't cure it and all. And then I was just like, I didn't know what she was talking about because I didn't get it. And then when I grew up, like around 10 or something, then I started to get it more.
Elizabeth feels the only way to keep her kids safe is to teach them early about using condoms for protection, although she hopes her two youngest don't become sexually active for a while. According to Hazel, so far, so good.
Because then I'll break their hands if they do anything.
Hazel knows two other kids whose moms are also HIV positive. Despite that, some of her friends don't seem concerned about the spread of AIDS and might not be willing to wait to have sex or insist on condoms when they do.
Sometimes they might just be like, oh, if I don't do this, then he's not going to think that I like him or something. And I just tell him, you know, if he thinks that that's the only way, then to show him other ways instead of doing any sexual things with them.
It's a lot to think about at such a young age.
Oh, God.
Elizabeth doesn't want her kids to have to carry the burden alone, and that sometimes keeps her up nights.
When you're HIV positive, you're on a time budget because there's no telling what's going to happen. I mean, I've seen people look as good as I look, and suddenly they get pneumonia and they die. I'm hoping that I can stretch out to maybe another 15 years, and I calculate their ages by that time, and hopefully by then they'll be prepared.
For now, she just wants her kids to have fun like anyone else.
I remember one time we went to this restaurant to eat.
Chicken is.
And I got you guys sandwiches made out of
Fish.
No, it was brain.
Oh.
Cow brain.
Like most of her friends who are living with HIV, Elizabeth tries to focus on the positive instead of dwelling on what could go wrong. She doesn't think there'll be a cure in time to help her, but if there is...
If there was a cure, I would be so happy.
I'm SHERYL KAHN for Life and Times. This is the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center in 29 Palms. 932 square miles of sand and stone, haunting and desolate. And perfect for training Marines who are headed to Iraq.
No sweat, no sweat.
The base is remote enough to do things like this.
It's a very real situation. It's not a, start the game over if you get shot kind of thing. It's taking care of ourselves, taking care of our own, and when they sign up to be a Marine, they're prepared to take risks.
The Marines use live rounds during training, so that means flak jackets and helmets for everyone.
Jones, helmet, you come with me.
The coaches, called Coyotes, are all Marines who've already served in Iraq. They're conducting a dress rehearsal for the performance of a lifetime with choreography that could keep their fellow Marines alive.
Find out what's wrong with that gun.
But it's not all about firefights. They're also learning what it's like to step into a completely different world. Many of these young Marines have never even been out of the country, but in a matter of weeks, they'll be landing in a war-torn nation where at any moment they could be shot at. Explosives could be detonated near them. They may be targeted by insurgents in any number of ways. It's likely to be terrifying, deadly for some, and for most, a huge culture shock. That's why they're getting an initiation of sorts at this simulated Iraqi village. They call it Wadi al-Sahara.
We try to replicate the environment as realistically as possible. We're constantly getting feedback from the theater to constantly improve the program, finding ways to immerse the average Marine so that the first time he goes to Iraq isn't the first time he's got the experience.
That means traffic signs and graffiti are all in Arabic. So are license plates on older, well-worn vehicles because you don't see many brand new BMWs in Baghdad. And then there are the role players. They are mostly Iraqis who live in the U.S. now. They're flown in from all over the country to stay here in sparsely furnished trailers that stand in for typical Iraqi homes. They are paid for their work, but some, like 47-year-old Nidal Abbas, say they're not here for the money.
Most of the Marine here, it's young, when they went to Iraq, believe me, my heart go with them. And I pray to them because I lost 4 brothers, same age, Saddam Hussein. They kill them because they are Muslim Shia.
Abbas wants to help her country, and she feels she can do that by helping the Marines. She knows these Marines will be leaving for Iraq in a couple of months and don't have much time to learn before they go.
When I teach them strongly, you know. I need them to know everything. I wish I have a 3 mouth, 3 tongue, you know, and everything speak in different kind, you know.
For the young Marines,
The hardest thing for them to learn is simply to interact with that population, to get up close and personal and talk to them.
and it is the up close and personal that's the hardest.
Personal space issues. Americans like their personal space, whereas the Arab culture are like to get a lot closer.
شلونك شو اخبارك هلا.
So Marines got to get used to that.
Well, some of them they like to kiss them a lot in Iraq. They like to give them a hug, kiss, you know, just like the passion of the car.
And American Marines might not be used to that.
I understand, but they have to get used to it.
When he did that, what did you think?
Kind of freaked out, you know. I mean, I'm from the South. It's normal to hug another guy because, you know, that's what we do in the South. But the kind of kiss on the cheek, it's not something you do in America.
If I'm kiss someone, maybe he said, "Whoa, what's going on here?" They think, you know. So we have to just teach them some stuff like that.
Teach a Marine that it's okay to kiss a guy, basically? Is that?
Not just the kiss, is everything, you know, because if they go to Iraq, they don't know. If I'm seeing my friend, I'm shake his hand and kiss him. He said, "What? All the Iraqi people, they gay or what?" So I'm just.
But other scenarios are no laughing matter, like when Marines have to search suspects in the middle of a hostile crowd.
Take your headdress off now.
Or conduct house-to-house searches for insurgents without hurting or offending innocent people.
I don't have anything to say.
Nothing to say?
I have nothing to say. The way that you guys approach me.
Okay. Tell him that I apologize. And is there any way I could mend that?
Or man checkpoints where so many Marines and civilians have been killed.
No! We want air shot!
And react quickly to emergencies when fellow Marines could be dying right before their eyes.
Look around in your surroundings. You want to treat this guy for shock.
The coyote who's teaching these Marines is only 24 years old, but he's already been to Iraq and back and seen much worse than this, because this, though shockingly realistic, is only a drill.
Stop breathing. What's going on unconscious? What do you want to do? Start the breathing, right? Okay, let's start the breathing. How are you going to do that? 2-hand blood scan. Use your hands, okay? You're going to go around his whole body. Okay, you go around his whole body. You find bright red blood right here. He got shot in the back of the leg and he's bleeding out his artery. You got to know how to put on these dressings. Get with your doc, because you're going to go to Iraq, okay? And someone's going to die. It happens. Units don't come back with no casualties, okay? You're going to go to Iraq, and one of your buddies is going to die, and you want to be able to eat chow at the end of the night and say, hey, I did all I could do to take care of my friend, and you know, he died, okay? You don't want to be sitting there for the rest of your life thinking, oh, well, I wish I know how to put on that dressing, okay? They go through something called combat paralysis, okay? And it happens a lot in Iraq, and we're teaching these guys before it happens.
It definitely is a shocker. You don't expect to see something like that.
One day it might be real.
Exactly.
And how do you feel about that?
If it happens, I'm going to hopefully rely on my knowledge and do the best that I can to help that individual stay alive.
And that, they say, is what this is all about.
They're going to go, and maybe they'll come back, maybe not. I mean, God bless them. We hope them to come back.
SHERYL KAHN, KESQ News Channel 3, 29 Palms. To get to the Black Mountain Fire Lookout just north of Idlewild, you drive along a winding gravel road, unlock the gate, and head up the mountain like volunteers do every day. Their destination, this tiny metal cabin perched high above the treetops.
Pull it up, swing it up, it's on a weight, and we are here. Welcome to Black.
Candy Kersey's one of the volunteers who keep records, track weather conditions.
What we're doing now is checking the wind direction.
And greet visitors who drop in from time to time or fly by. But most importantly, she and some 300 others keep an eye out for fires. George Hall has been doing it for 11 years.
Hi, George!
George and Candy often sign up for shifts that last just a few hours, but sometimes they stay overnight. George on his own, Candy with her husband. This time they're teaming up to give us a rare glimpse into life at the top.
San Bernardino, Black Mountain, out of service, in tower overnight.
That means as the sun goes down and the wind kicks up, they've lowered the flag and settled in for the evening. But the radio is always on, because if they do see flames, they'll be calling in.
I hope I don't miss any, but I'm happy when I don't see any.
Accommodations here are rustic, a bit crowded tonight, with Candy hosting a reporter in the tower and George sharing the garage below with the photographer.
I brought a sleeping bag.
There's no electricity here, but in the garage there is this.
We flush it, just like any other toilet. Goes down. The only thing is now the water's out. Gotta take this off. We fill this up with water.
Outside the tower, a gorgeous sunset, star-filled sky, and sparkling city lights.
And it's just lighting up the ground all over the place. It's like looking at a big Christmas tree.
While inside the tower,
This is like camping. I've been camping since I was a kid.
to pass the time, a board game, lots of food, and photos of fires that volunteers have spotted.
It's an adrenaline rush when you spot a fire. You want to be the first one to report it.
Sometimes, however, that thrill turns to fear, like during the Sawtooth fire, which cost one man his life and destroyed 50 homes.
It does start out so small. You know, it starts out as just a single plume going up, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And at the time we called it in, they said it was a flare-up from another fire, and we just watched it grow.
Except for the howling of the wind, this night is quiet. And the next morning, a spectacular sunrise.
Clear, 60.
Candy, the first one up, gets the ball rolling in the tower, then checks on George in the garage.
Good morning, George. I'm bringing you coffee in bed.
It's not the usual drill, but today they're celebrating everything that's special about this place, from the kind of scenery that money just can't buy to the visitors that have passed this way, visitors of all kinds.
What's this you're getting?
Peters.
For what?
They're the squirrels, my friends. Let me get it.
Is that all you say to them? You don't tell them your problems?
No, I don't tell them my problem. I don't have any problems.
Oh, okay.
Not when I'm up here.
SHERYL Khan, KESQ News Channel 3 on Black Mountain. The sparkling strip has come roaring back and is teeming with tourists. Gaming revenue on the Vegas Strip is up nearly 30% compared to last year, with casinos raking in $624 million in January alone. That's almost back to pre-crisis levels. But beyond the glitter, thousands of homes continue falling into foreclosure, and many mortgages remain underwater, with borrowers owing more than their homes are worth. Nevada has the triple crown of bad economic indicators, first in the nation for number of foreclosures, underwater mortgages, and at 13%, the highest unemployment rate in the country, adding up to some very desperate homeowners.
I think most foreclosures are due to calculated foreclosure, which basically means the value of houses have gone down. Your loan is higher than the value of the house. So you calculate to see, well, I do not want to pay mortgages for next 10 years while the value of the asset that I have is not there.
For this retired couple, skyrocketing medical bills meant they could no longer afford the home they'd expected to stay in for the rest of their lives. Opting for a short sale and moving to an apartment relieves some of the financial pressure. But Nancy Titmus says it's hard not to focus on what they lost.
Probably in the neighborhood of 50,000 or better.
That hurts.
Right here, because, you know, it's a retirement cream gone down the drain.
The plunge in prices does mean deep discounts for buyers compared to 6 years ago. In March 2006, the median price of a home in Greater Las Vegas was $303,000. Almost 6 years later, the price was $112,000, down more than 60%. Law student Chauncey Cha Duong paid $95,000 for this short sale. The previous owner paid nearly $60,000 more.
You know, it's unfortunate for him that he had to do a short sale and take a loss, but, you know, he was willing to sell and I was willing to buy, and I think it was a good opportunity for me.
So at 23 years old, you have a nice house.
I do.
There may be good opportunities for those with the means and risk tolerance to buy, but with low job growth, high housing inventories, and tougher mortgage loan standards, for many, owning a home in Vegas is still a gamble. SHERYL Kahn, Nightly Business Report, Las Vegas. Lining the hallways on the 4th floor of the Capitol, waiting for legislators to pass by, a number of groups pushing various bills and causes, like Dream Defenders, young people from across the state who first organized with a march following the shooting of Trayvon Martin, today holding a news conference at the Capitol.
Whose state is this?
The state is ours! The state is ours! And discussing their point of view on issues the legislature will be taking up.
To repeal Stand Your Ground, and to address the school-to-prison pipeline and not allow our campuses to invest in private prison corporations. And I'm also interested in genuine immigration reform.
On opening day, the halls and grounds of the Capitol are usually packed with people trying to make a point, and today was no exception. 2 Miami advocacy groups called on legislators in hopes of gaining support for bills in the House and Senate that would provide unemployment compensation for victims of domestic violence. They ran into Senator Dwight Bullard in his office.
Senator Bullard, good afternoon. How are you?
I don't want to interrupt you.
Where we look forward to speaking to our representatives. It's nerve-wracking, yes, but it's certainly something that we as survivors, we want to be able to help other families not to have to experience any of the tragedies that we did.
Senator Bullard says he doesn't mind when people drop in to try to talk to him.
It's actually absolutely my favorite part of the process is the idea that people can feel that this building is their building and that they can access their elected representatives.
The Florida African American Heritage Preservation Network is also here lobbying for state funding.
We are asking for the House and the Senate to put at least $350,000 in as a line item so that we can help support projects like the U.S. Colored Troops as we do our work across the state of Florida to preserve Florida's history.
Their reenactment unit presented colors at the opening of this morning's House session. Later, the group connected with state leaders with the help of Representative Alan Williams.
I think it's important to, as a representative, to make sure that we engage our constituents with the folks that they need to know. Not only are we here to pass laws, we're here to help them navigate through the governmental process.
It's a process that sometimes goes on into the evening, like this rally sponsored by Awake the State. Their priority this year is election reform. These kinds of citizen events are expected to continue till the end of session in May. For Capitol Update, I'm SHERYL Kahn.